When I run, let me run like a deer. When I fight, let me fight like a mother bear. When I hide, let me hide like a fox. Learn to strike like a rattlesnake. Let my trickiness be that of the coyote, not directed at my people or me, but at those who threaten our safety.
Welcome to the Mama Bear Family Care Mastermind Summit. I'm Sherilyn and I'll be hosting the summit. Today we have the privilege of talking to Pip Waller, an experienced herbalist, plant spirit medicine healer, author, and teacher. She lives in North Shropshire, UK, on the border with Wales. For 35 years, she has worked as a medical herbalist and natural healer, helping many people. She has taught anatomy, physiology, and pathology to students of natural medicine since 1991 with great success. Pip has studied Reiki healing, soul retrieval, shamanic healing, and plant spirit medicine, which she has found to be so amazing that it accounts for around 90% of her practice now. Pip is currently very excited about the delightful Touched by Nature seasonal alchemy course, devised with friend and esteemed colleague Lucy Wells. She has a YouTube channel with short videos about being human, in which she talks about what it means to be a person in the 21st century looking for wellness. She has written several books: the Health and Beauty Botanical Handbook, the Home and Happiness Botanical Handbook, the Herbal Handbook for Home and Health, Holistic Anatomy, Deeply Holistic, a guide to intuitive self-care, which sums up her holistic approach, and Touched by Nature, co-authored with Lucy Wells, about the incredible healing power of plants. Hello, Pip. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hello, Sherilyn. Thanks for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure as well. It's an honor. So can you share with the audience how you came to your passion and work with herbs and plant spirit medicine?
Well, I was very lucky and I became a medical herbalist very young. And actually that was to do with my mum and dad, who both had health problems when I was a teenager, and what was on offer from the orthodox medicine wasn't satisfactory. And they both went to a medical herbalist and had a lot of help. And so I heard of herbal medicine. And actually, I went pretty much straight from school and became a medical herbalist, 4-year training. But I always had, I think the plants got me when I was a little girl in the woods, because I still remember some of the plants. I've got the biggest sort of feeling of, oh, that's my friend.
Yeah.
It's quite childlike, really. And there were plants I remember from when I was little. And but I always felt we need some, herbal medicine. There's a lot that it can do, but I always felt a real calling and desire to go deeper. And, I think there's a lot of complicated, like malaise. Something ails us in our modern world. And I've come to believe over the years that it's really deeply to do with a difficulty with a lack of connection. And that shows itself. It's a lack of connection with nature, but with ourselves actually, and with each other. So I always had this hunger for, I'm going to call it spiritual healing that really touches the heart and soul. And although I think that there's a certain way that herbal medicine can do that, and I definitely know some herbalists that I'd say do that, I always felt there's something else I want. And it was the experience of starting to meditate or think about plants as being people, being beings, being like individuals. That's what I'm going to call plant spirits, that they've got something, like just like their body can give our body some a lot of healing, so their spirit or their energy can give our spirit what it's crying out for. And so I studied that in various different ways. And then I was really lucky that in 2004, I studied with Elliot Cowan, who's now died sadly in March of last year. But he was really a great healer and teacher. And I got to learn a particular way of working with plant spirit medicine that he devised, actually. It's like because a lot of course, all indigenous peoples have a way of working with plant spirit medicine, but many of those traditions are lost. Certainly our tradition over here is. And he combined 5-element acupuncture, not the acupuncture, the needly bit, but the diagnosis and the protocol, the understanding of disease, which is really a way of trying to figure out, well, yes, a person's soul is crying out, spirit is crying out for something, but how do you figure out what that is so you can call the right plant to come and help? And the 5-element diagnostic and treatment protocols are absolutely beautiful system. And he started he moved away from needles into a way of working with plant spirits, which he then, taught for for decades. And yeah, I was really lucky. And I also trained then. I continually trained. I trained, and then I continually did professional development. And along with Lucy, my friend and colleague, we also got trained to be able to teach people to be healers. So we're doing that now over here in the UK. There's something else happening in the States. I'm not quite sure what yet, but we're local, so we're doing it here, and that's very exciting. But we also have an online course where we want to turn people on, inspire people with the beauty of the medicine.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's fascinating to me. What is your online course about?
Well, we've got a tiny little free course as well on the website's called it's called Touch by Nature psm.uk, that all the info is on. But it's a seasonal connection course which we've got, which goes over 1 year, and you do it season by season. So in the spring, the summer, the late summer or harvest time, then the fall, or what we call the autumn over here, and the winter. And it's a guiding with videos and written material about helping you really connect with that energy and notice it, find ways to notice, but also there are lots of ways to actually work with it in your life. For example, let's take the fall, because it's a very obvious one in a way. It's actually a very good time for letting go. It's a good time for, composting. So for letting go, it's a good time for working with grief. It's a good time for sort of looking at your life and thinking, well, what's finished really that can go in the compost, and what am I keeping? Spring, good time for like detoxing, new beginnings, and so on. And we're at the cusp now of the summer and what we call the late summer or harvest, where it goes, summer's very much expansive and fun and having, laughing and connecting with people.
Yeah.
But then the harvest time is very much about nourishment, when there's such an abundance of berries and foods in the garden. But we've had people all over the world doing that course. So we might have somebody in Australia that is doing the fall while we're here over here, and in North America, people would be doing the spring, because they've got they're down there, they've got the opposite season. But you just work through, and also guidance about how to ways to connect more deeply with plants. Build your own relationship with your natural environment. Even if you live in a city, there's always some kind of natural environment to find, because nature's always there.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so exciting. I would love to take that course.
Good.
I can imagine how inspiring and empowering it is to sort of go with the flow of nature rather than fighting against it, right?
Exactly.
So for the benefit of the audience for whom this may be an entirely new concept, they may have heard the term plant medicine or plant spirit medicine in a different context. So does what you're talking about mean using psychoactive or psychedelic plant medicine like ayahuasca or cannabis?
No, not at all. Actually, our teacher, Elliot, was very clear that he felt like, look, ayahuasca belongs in the jungles where it's used for the people, that it's part of a rooted ancestral tradition and should really be used as part of that for the people who have the right soul resonance for it. Then it's a beautiful medicine. But he thought it was quite problematic, the way that what he called them sacred teacher plants, same with cannabis actually, that there's a proper use of those things, right. But when they start being widely used by people, and actually, to be fair, I mean, our people are very hungry for healing because we need it, but it's sort of, we're also very trained to be consumers, so and we're trained to sort of take things. So, and also we're really trained to have a quick fix. So what we want is a quick fix, rather than, whereas what he would say is, look, those sacred teacher plants, you might do them very occasionally in the cultures they come from. And it might, but then you go away and you apply what you've learned and you do the heavy lifting of, growing in wisdom in your life and actually taking charge of your life and moving. So in fact, when we're treating people with plant spirit medicine, we ask them not to do any of those things at all. In fact, we found that cannabis, for example, it's these sacred plants, they open a door. Yeah. So if you open a door without knowing, you could think of Harry Potter. I don't know if you watch those films, but I think there's one where there's this many-headed dog, and you have to know that you have to know the right passwords and the right way to deal with the guardians of gateways. Otherwise, you can get into a lot of trouble. Yeah. So, and we don't know those ways. So anyway, what we do with plant spirit medicine, literally, they're plants that grow in the locality. So like you've got bluebells all behind you. So for example, there are bluebells here. They're slightly different, our bluebells, but they're, similar enough. And we will have made friends with the plant in a very particular way, done what we call a plant study. The online course that we offer describes that. And actually it's described in the book, it's described how to do it too. But we do a whole process of spending time with the plant and then doing a shamanic dream journey with a drum, the Michael Harner method drum journey. It's like a kind of like a visualization, but you're not having somebody talking you through it, to go and connect with the plant. And then the plant basically tells you what its medicine is. And then when we're healing somebody, we're working with somebody, we literally put our hands on the person and ask the plant that we've previously got a relationship with, please come and give your medicine to this person in this way. And then because we're using the 5 element protocols, it involves taking the pulses in a very particular way. So we take the pulses of the person, then we ask the plant to do something. We take the pulses again. We can feel what's happened. We can feel the change. And that a treatment maybe lasts an hour, and there are steps that we go through to create balance and harmony in the person. But generally, every plant spirit medicine healer, has a bunch of friends that they have made, and they're local plants that grow where they live, and they're the ones that we call on and ask to come and help our people. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so deep.
It's really far out. What can I say? I mean, sometimes I hear myself talking, I think, what are you talking about? It's hocus pocus. But the thing is, it works. It's like, I mean, my experience of it, I'd been a medical herbalist for 15 years before I plant spirit medicine. And then I was like, wow, when it just gets somewhere very, very deep. This one, which is about the thing that is almost closest to my heart nowadays, really, is plant spirit medicine. Yeah. I feel what really ails us is deeply spiritual in nature. Yes. And the lack of connection, and for me, the plant spirit medicine's got a very big thing to offer for that.
Oh yes, and that's your latest book, right?
Well, that's right, and this one describes I wrote it with my friend and colleague, Lucy Wells, and we collected stories. It's got maybe more than 50 different people gave us stories of their different types of experiences of what we could call plant spirit medicine, or the experience of plants as these like living beings. Could say a plant spirit could say that's like, I mean, the bluebell fairy, I'm thinking of
Yeah.
backdrop, or if you could see that beautiful flower as in a form, a human form, what would that be? And of course people see them differently. It's not like there's one, everyone has to find the same one, but we can learn to get into a certain sort of zone where probably it's quite a childlike zone, really, where we do really start to experience the magic and aliveness of nature.
Yes. Yes, I've had some quite unexpected experiences just since watching your beautiful interview with you and Lucy on YouTube.
Really?
And I just, as I was falling asleep, I'd just let myself daydream with one of the plants. I don't even know what I'm doing, right? But still, it's some interesting experiences. There's definitely the feeling of a presence there, and even some level of communication. It's amazing. I never would have guessed,
Wow, I'm so happy to hear that you got that inspiration from that.
Oh yeah,
interview. Really happy.
Yeah,
because also, one of the you could say one of the maybe almost the sicknesses of our modern world is the loneliness, the feeling of aloneness that people have, and actually oftentimes communities are decimated or broken up in a way they never were before. But actually, and of course we do need to rebuild our human communities, but in fact as well, when you start to experience the plant world and the natural world as being really alive and present and relatable with, then as our relatives, as our friends, then basically you've got friends wherever you go, because there's always plants. There are always plants somewhere.
I love that. Right?
Cities, right? They grow through the cracks, or they're always somewhere. Or your house plants indoors.
Yes.
And not just about, it's not about, I mean, actually, I'll be honest, it doesn't always make your physical illness go away, but actually it totally changes your experience of your life. It very often does help with physical illnesses too.
Right.
But, you can be, if your spirit's in good shape, life feels very, very different,
Yes.
Very, very
And yes, I can relate, because I've been doing a different type of energy work for 20 years now, called family constellation work.
Yeah, nice.
And so I have some experience with what that's like, and just completely transformational, But it can sound a little bit out there when you first hear about it, and even when I first listened to some of your videos, it was very unusual. It's a different perspective than I'd ever heard before, even though I've personally experienced the powerful benefits of essential oils from plants, for physical health and mental health. And so I was fascinated to hear, like what you just said earlier too, about just as the bodies of plants are able to heal our bodies, so their spirit or energy offers much needed help to our spirits. And so you did a really good job explaining a little bit about how that works. I'm sure there's a lot more to learn about how to actually do that. But what kinds of what kinds of things does this type of energy work help with mainly? Would you recommend it for just for a daily maintenance, or for?
Yeah, well, I mean, good question. I think it depends. I mean, before I answer that, I would just want to say, like, a way of illustrating it too is, if you imagine, if you've ever walked in a bluebell wood, for example, in May when they're flowering, and the energy or the feeling of them is very particular. Or in fact, if you just imagine walking in a forest, any kind of a forest with lots of big trees, but then you compare that with being in a meadow, with a flower meadow, or with being in a garden with roses, for example. It's like all of them, it's nature, and it's, there's something wonderful, but they're quite a different flavor. So that's kind of part of what we're getting to. But yes, people come for all kinds of reasons. Quite often people come because they've got something physical, but also equally often people come because they just don't feel quite right. Something just doesn't feel quite right. And what we've got with the plant spirit medicine and the 5 element protocols is a way of also cleaning up. There's a way of, just like viruses and bacteria and stuff can get into you and make illnesses. Well, there's energies, things can get into your energy body that can make you, not as well. And the plants have got ways of cleaning us up, and so that we're just becoming and making us more robust. So, and some people come. I mean, I've now been having plant myself. I get treatments. I mean, if I can, I'll have a treatment even every month. If it's easy and available. But I've been having them for like over 20 years, and sometimes I haven't had a treatment for a few years, but mostly when you're using medicine, you really have to do everything you can to keep in really good balance anyway. So some people will come and they'll come for like 8-10 sessions, and that'll be it. And then they might come again 5 years later. And then other people, I've actually got people that have been coming to me for like 19 years since I started. And they don't generally come every week for 19 years, but they come and go. And it depends. So for example, I've got some clients that have got a chronic, hereditary, genetic condition, which means then they're always going to be, their health's going to be impaired, compared to someone that doesn't have that. But if you think, here's how I think of it, all of us, we've got, we could have a range. We could be at our top health that we could be as an individual. We could be at our bottom health. And there's quite a difference. If you've got some people, well, when you're young, for example, if you're young and you're lucky enough to be healthy, you can often be quite at the bottom of your health range and still feel pretty good. Right. But as you get older, that becomes less and less true. The bottom of your health range, you tend to need to look after yourself a bit more. And actually, if you've got a genetic condition or hereditary condition, which means your low is really terrible, your high is not going to be as high as somebody that doesn't have that condition, but it's a huge difference. It can be the difference between you functioning and having any kind of good life and being unable to do anything. So I've got a few people like that do come long term regularly. But I think Elliot used to say it's a cradle to grave medicine, and there's other people that maybe they come when the seasons change. Often we can get a bit discombobulated, thrown out when the seasons change. Sometimes people come like 5-6 times a year like that, just to have a balance. And then other people come, something happens that's stressful or difficult, and then they think, I need to go and get a couple of treatments to recalibrate.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense, because I've heard the energy work that I've been doing talked about as it's like buying groceries. You don't buy groceries just once or twice in your life. It's a regular thing, You'll need it more. Sometimes you might need more than others if there's difficult times.
That's right. Well, actually, the other thing is, as you probably know from doing that work, that when we haven't done when we haven't started on our healing journey, we have an idea, I think, because of our cultural idea of quick fix. And also the other thing that our culture does, which is make people feel bad about themselves and as if there's something wrong with you. Therefore, to say, actually, I feel like there's something wrong, kind of, it's difficult to do that because because there isn't anything wrong with us. We're living often in ways that really just don't suit us. That's the thing. We need help to stay in balance. But but when you're just starting out, you might think, well, I'll just sort this thing out,
Right.
And then you start the journey and you find out, wow, I didn't know. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm still having things like this where I go, wow, I didn't know that I had this big old, like recently I had an experience of a big old grief that really came up, and I thought, wow. And I did a sort of processed it, and I thought, wow, that's had a huge effect on my life and my decisions, and I didn't know, you know.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
that, the more you do of personal development and the healing journey, we could say, often the more you understand, the more is needed, you know.
Yeah.
The layers
Yeah.
of onion, they say. You peel
Yes.
something and you think, and then there's another layer.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a sense. So I wonder, this is a new concept to me. What you teach, it's really, even though I've been working with plants for a really long time, I've been looking for help for my own issues along, before I found out about quality essential oils, I was using St. John's wort, for example, and looking for different things. And I finally found essential oils, and that's been really high quality ones, can be very powerful, but I'm wondering now, we've only really usually think about them in terms of the chemical constituents or the effect on the body, right? But I wonder if even in that state, some of the benefit is coming from the energy of the plant.
I'm
You think
sure.
that's
I'm sure. And well, I don't know what just popped into my mind that people might like to try is a really simple exercise to try. First we try, and when we're teaching people this, we try and encourage, we want a childlike attitude, like of openness. And also you're not trying hard to do something and you're going to tell yourself, I can't do it. You're just like, wonder what would happen if. So a very simple thing you can do is just with any plant, which could be a house plant, or it could be a tree in the park, or, wherever you are, a little daisy, a little weed that's growing up in the crack of the pavement. But you kind of can sort of say hello to it. And that can be in your mind if you're somewhere where there are people and they might think you're bonkers, right? But then you can do a little very simple exercise of breathing. There's a heart-centered breathing exercise that's very relaxing and nice anyway, where you slowly breathe in and out, and imagine the air's going in and out of your heart. So you're kind of keeping your attention here, breathing in and out. And then you do that with a plant, and imagine when you're breathing in the plant's energy, and when you're breathing out, the plant's breathing in your energy. So you're making a connection, and just see how it feels. That's all. You're not trying to do anything, but just see how it feels. And you could certainly do that with your essential oils too. You could certainly just eat, because they are like raw, that one constituent of the plant, that pure essential oil is well, that, but there's a lot that they do, and they give the plant their smell, which is one of the ways that they attract and communicate. So you can certainly do that, even holding the bottle, by your heart and breathing in and out its energy. Maybe with the lid off so you can smell it a bit as well. I don't know. You can come up with a myriad of ways to build your connection. But I would really say, really getting into anywhere where you can actually be with plants in their growing state, because they grow from the earth, right? And the earth, think about it, the earth generates all that we need for, think about how abundant the earth is, complete abundance. And also the earth, the ability of the earth to regenerate, I don't know if you've ever seen there, you can see photos of like cities, abandoned buildings and things, 10 15 years later, it's a jungle.
I love those.
The earth knows how to regenerate. And regeneration and abundance, that's healing. If we can access that, if we can access that, you could say the frequencies that the earth is producing, all the plants are expressions of that. And if we can, when we're tapping into them, we're bringing in that very powerful healing, rejuvenating, regenerating, nourishing, abundant energy into ourselves,
That's so powerful. That's true. It's so many aspects of this that I hadn't thought about. of plants. Those of us who love plants, we may not have even thought about these aspects of it. One thing that crossed my mind is it's probably getting this way more all around the world, but in America, it's been this way for quite a while, where there are a lot of people here whose ancestry is from a very different location on the earth. And so with what you're talking about is local plants, right? Local to where we're living now, or local to maybe where we grew up. Are there
Local
any
to where you're living. Local to where you're living.
Local to where you're living. So I was just wondering if anyone's in your community ever talks about any potential for healing, or for someone who may have had some generational trauma, even from being transplanted in a violent way, maybe ancestrally from their home, maybe somehow, even if it's not physically having the plants from their homeland around them, I'm wondering if there's any way that could be beneficial.
Really beautiful question. Yeah, because actually it happens to plants too, doesn't it? That I mean, many plants are you have lots of plants now growing in North America and the United States that have been taken there from all over, and so do we here. And then some of them get called, it's a very interesting subject, because some of them get called invasive species, don't they? Right. And then here there's like war against, Japanese knotweed and rhododendrons, and because they're invasive species. And it's such a actually really interesting parallels with how sometimes people are about recent immigrants, which is it's really interesting. But in fact, when a plant, what we try and work with the plant spirit medicine mostly are plants. It wouldn't have to be an indigenously native plant, but it's a plant that's made its home in the area. So, and in fact, I've been really lucky, and I've done a bit of traveling. So I have traveled I've been in Ghana, for example, and I've been in India, and I've made friends with some plants when I'm there. And I do sometimes bring them, funnily enough, I do like the African plants. I do sometimes bring them in for people, African heritage people. If I feel it wouldn't just be, oh, they're African, it's because there's another there's something. But I think actually for people that are, that are either recent immigrants or have a that traumatic ancestral thing, which is pretty much, crikey, nearly everyone's got, it'd be hard push to find anyone without trauma in their ancestry, really. I'm telling you. When you start actually really learning real history and really talking to people, listening to people, you find out everyone's got a whole ton of pain, But if you see how a plant, in a new land, it can make itself completely at home, and then it becomes of that land, because actually when we're living somewhere, the land itself is nourishing us. I think if somebody's really unhappy somewhere and doesn't feel at home, and I know it's not possible for everyone, but if people feel a calling to explore their ancestry, I really think it's a good idea to try and do that, even to visit those places. I've got a very dear friend who's a plant spirit medicine healer here, lovely woman. She's called Carol, and she was adopted, grew up in children's homes. She never knew her father. She said she's a war baby, like a GI child, right? And she had an experience not very long ago, a few years ago, where she was in America in a certain part, and she had this absolute feeling of homecoming. I'm not going to remember the details because of my aging brain, but it was the homeland of a particular tribe of Native Americans, this place, right? And soon after that, she did a DNA test, and she found that that was her ancestry, that place. Yeah. Oh, just telling you, that's made all my hair.
Me too. I have chills all over my arms and legs too.
But I think like place is important, but I also think we can, if we remember wherever we are, if we remember that actually the earth, that is supporting us at all times, it is one round earth. And you could say, like, the resonance, the magnetic field of the earth is generated in the core of the earth and radiates out. So, you know, we can, if we can tap into that and allow ourselves to feel, you know, the earth is never, the earth isn't racist and unwelcoming,
Right.
you know. People
Right.
have got in these funny old patterns that we've got into and gone down wrong paths as humans, you know. But actually, nature really can show us the right way to be. And that is this, I think nature, you know, lands have a real welcome for all of us, you know. And if you've grown, if you've lived somewhere a long time, your ancestors have lived there, it's your land, you know. The land has adopted you.
Oh, yes, that's so beautiful.
The
And it's
earth
all
is our mother,
connected.
right? The earth is our mother.
Yes. Yeah, literally. Quite
Literally.
literally. Yeah, that's wow. That's powerful.
And plants, you know, they are a fantastic intermediary, you could say, between the earth herself and us, you know. You know, we've got 48 or something, is it 43? 40 something percent the same genes as an oak tree. Human beings have.
Oh my goodness.
Genetic material, you know, they are our relatives. The plant people are our cousins, you know.
Oh my goodness. I had never, again, another new thing for me. I had never thought of it that way, you know, and whatever, people have different beliefs and different backgrounds. My background is Christian, and I, you know, I have read the Bible. And so with that worldview, I'm sure it resonates with all different kinds of worldviews, but I'm just thinking, like, well, if there's one creator and who
God
created all of
everything,
then we literally are relatives.
Yeah.
It's not even just a metaphor.
Exactly.
We're all descendants of the same origin.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we all come from the earth.
That divine
Yes.
beauty and magnificence of
Yes.
God is absolutely accessible, incredibly directly from nature.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's so beautiful. It's just like what you were talking about. It just having the honor of talking to you for a few minutes is I can understand what you've been sharing of how opening up to this reality that it's always been here, right? But it's like our eyes are closed to it, and it just makes everything magical again, like when we were children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And more.
Well, I just was thinking about what I said earlier about that, you know, the healing journey. We're on these journeys where we're learning and growing and all our lives. And then that means we can have the childlike magical experience of life, but we can also grow in wisdom so that we actually end up as wise elders rather than just old people that, you know, watched a lot of TV and, you know, ate bad food and didn't engage with and process our emotions and our, you know, and that's what we kind of need. It's sort of like waking up, like more of us, you know, we wake up, don't we, to be fully human, you know, and the biggest people that we can be, you know.
Yes, that's definitely needed these days. Yeah, I love that. And there are a couple of questions along those lines that I wanted to ask every expert to help the audience see the connection that your work has with empowerment, or what I'm calling mama bear energy, and ecological living. And so what mama bear energy means to me is making a decision to stand up for and insist on doing what is most important and what really matters for yourself and your family, and making those things non-negotiable priorities, even when they may be unusual or unpopular. So how has that kind of decision been a part of your journey? It sounds like you've have taken a sort of unusual path.
Yeah.
Was there a point when you had to decide?
Well, definitely. I mean, two things come to my mind. One was really about my journey as a mother. I've only got one child. I try to have more, but I didn't, you know, it didn't work out. So, but I've got one and he's grown now. a young adult, you know, and so there were a lot of things that I really did and sort of did my best to fight to do differently with him. And actually, like, really writing the books for me, you know, especially, you could say, deeply holistic, is really about saying, look, there's other ways that we can do things, you know, that respect the planet, respect the earth, but that also, in terms of empowerment, I think one of the problems with modern medicine, where it's gone, is incredibly disempowering. It's like you're just, you put yourself in someone else's hands and they'll do things to you, and as if we're like, I mean, it's fine to take your car to the garage, right, to the mechanic, and let them do things to the car and then get it back, but actually this is you know, your body is you, your body, your mind, your spirit is all one being, and you have to be very much involved with your, you know, it's a much more complicated and delicate thing. So I think in being empowered, and actually for mums of children, I mean, that's because it's called Mum About. I know it isn't only for mums, but it's right. Like, yeah, you really, there's a lot of things I mean, I'm very, very glad that I already knew stuff about herbs and natural ways of treating, because I mean, my son's only once had a drug in his life. Wow. And that was, he had a tooth abscess and he had to have it taken out, and you have to have antibiotics first, you know, otherwise so that's the only time, you know, but that's because I knew, I mean, he had lots of illnesses and ailments and stuff, so I knew what to do, and when I didn't know what to do, I consulted somebody. So I definitely that's one thing. And then the other thing that came, I mean, I don't know if this answers your question, but I was reminded of a song, which is Animal Spirits, the song's called, and it goes, shall I sing it for you? It's
yes, please.
Animal spirits, come to me now. Vanishing spirits, come live in me. I need your strength to fight a common enemy. Animal spirits, come live in me. When I run, let me run like a deer. When I fight, let me fight like a mother bear. When I hide, let me hide like a fox. Learn to strike like a rattlesnake. Let my trickiness be that of the coyote, not directed at my people or me, but at those who threaten our safety. It's not plant spirits, but it's the same kind of principle, you know.
Yes, it is. I got chills all over. That's beautiful.
That's where I must be a Native American song. I learned it in England,
sounds like it.
You know, in my 20s, but they're all American animals, aren't they? So
yes. Oh, that's true. But oh my goodness, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
And it's a bit like that with the plants, you know, when I dream, let me dream with the bluebells. When I need sweetness, let that maybe, where would I get that from? Oh, let the primroses will give me sweetness and hold me in their lovely sweetness, you know. When I grieve, stinging nettle will help me grieve, and so on. When my heart needs joy, the hawthorn will, or the rose day willow herb will come and fill me with fire and love.
Yes, that's beautiful. And when you were singing it, it sounded to me, it reminded me that it's very interesting that sometimes indigenous or traditional music from different parts of the earth can sound very similar, because they're coming straight from the heart. So that I was torn between, was that Native American, or could it have been Irish even, maybe?
It could have, exactly.
Celtic, you know.
Indigenous songs are always very similar. I mean, it was in English, but originally, I don't even know who wrote it. Somebody, you know, I don't know. I'm afraid I don't know where it came from, but I know I'm like they call me the human jukebox, my friends. I kind of collect like chants and songs, and I have hundreds, but yeah.
Oh yeah, but I love that sentiment. That's so perfectly said. The tapping into the energies that the earth can support us with when we need.
Not being afraid of. We don't have to be afraid of. I know it's, you know, it's a big sort of like a big juggernaut, isn't it? The modern culture and, you know, the system. We can feel very disempowered, but I mean, I find it helpful to remember, look, we're only here for a short time. And there's a beautiful woman called Pat McCabe, Woman Stands Shine. Is she called Woman Stands Shining? Anyway, she's a Native American environmental activist. And she says, my people, we believe, you know, we come from beauty, we're born into beauty. And when we walk on this journey on this earth, and, you know, let's try and keep it as beautiful as possible. And then we die and go back to beauty. Oh. So it's good to remember we're all going to die. And we are in God's hands. So we don't need to panic and get too afraid and spend too much time on those mental rabbit holes of fear. You know, right. And I think that your journey has been such a beautiful example of that, because there must have been challenges along the way. I mean, did you ever run into that with resistance, maybe from people who didn't understand the way you were raising your child, or, you know, from doctors or friends, well-meaning, and how did you overcome those? How did you find the strength to keep going, or the trust in yourself? I don't know. I think we fall down and we keep getting up. Right. And also I'm a real I think I'm a real believer in taking I'm a real believer in what I've had to do a lot of, that was from my own childhood wounds as well, was really learning how to reclaim our feelings and our emotions and feel them, so that when you need to cry, you cry. And then you stop crying, you get back up and you get on with what you've got to get on with. So, you know, I'm quite glad that I haven't got a young child now, you know, let's put it like that, you know. I think it's pretty scary. And I do what I can to support and help other, you know, people I know with young children, or, you know, clients or whatever. People want to try and do things differently. There's a lot of pressure to do things in the same way. And also it's true that the big pharmaceutical companies have got almost entire control now over like the training of doctors and how medicine works, and even the regulatory bodies, actually. It's so, you know, but I think what I was getting at is I try and remember that, and when I'm in my heart and I pray enough and I can feel the divine connection, then I know, you know, who's really in charge is not those people that think they might be, you know. And actually it's nature. It's actually nature that's in charge, you know, in a certain way, with this ability to regenerate and
definitely. Thank you for that. And so I'm just thinking of the women out there who may still have young children, or may not even have children yet. And I remember how difficult it was for me making decisions for even myself as well as my child, and just trying to think of what wisdom we might be able to share with them. As far as I know, I doubted myself so many times. If I suspected that there was a better way, but I didn't have the confidence, you know. And meanwhile, older people and experts are telling me, no, you have to do it this way, you know.
Well, I think it's worth, so I'm going to say it's really worth remembering that you are the best mum for your child. Right. And that actually, like, practicing reclaiming your intuition and your knowing is a good thing. I felt I had a homeopathic kit. You can get these kits of homeopathic, and I had one very specifically for children, you know, babies and children, and it's got a little booklet, and you can, you know, look it up, and it tells you what to do about what. I think it's really worth, I think, everything you can do to breastfeed your child for as long as possible. You know, minimum 2 years, I would say, you know, really long time. And that in itself. There'll be people that think, oh, that's too long, but really, that's a good thing. And it also means that whenever your child's ill, if there's any infections around, you know, you look after yourself, you eat well, you'll be making, as well as your child's own waking up immunity, you'll be making antibodies for whatever's around, and they'll be in the breast milk. And it also means that when you, this is for little babies now, you know, it also means you can take remedies yourself, herbs and strong remedies that will get into the breast milk for the baby, right, when they're ill. And when one of the things is to really educate yourself about fever, because actually fever is quite a good thing. You shouldn't be suppressing every fever a child gets, because if fever isn't the illness, the fever's the little body's way of killing off the illness. So you want to get less, you want to educate yourself about that and get less afraid of it, have the homeopathic remedies, and actually a simple old thing. If you've got a little one that's got a fever, you strip off and you have them bare, your naked skin and their naked skin, because your normal temperature will help to regulate theirs. That's something, you know, I mean, there's loads of little things like that, actually. And then also I would really do everything you can to find somebody, whoever you can find, that knows a little bit more than you, that you can phone up when you're not sure what to do, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and maybe have some handbooks on your table, like the ones that you've written.
This one's, you know, got lots of recipes for things. But actually, I think the deeply holistic, maybe, because it's not specifically about children, but if it does give you quite an education about the body, and the more you know, well, for me, I've always felt that knowing more gives me more confidence. So knowing more, and I'm going to say as well, like, really, you have confidence in life, you know, like the body and the mind and spirit, we're self-healing, you know, mechanisms. It's an amazing thing. So like when you're hurt, you cry, and the crying is actually the healing of the mental side of healing the hurt, so that you don't end up with a mental scar. So you let yourself cry, and that's your mind's healing ability. But you cut yourself, your body knows how to mend it, unless you've got some, you know, genetic thing. But it's incredible, it's miraculous. So remembering that the body, your child's body's got so many self-healing mechanisms that often all we have to do is just support them and get out of the way and try not to suppress things, you know, including don't suppress their cry. That was probably the biggest challenge for me, because I really believe that people should be little ones should be allowed to cry, not left on their own to cry so that they give up, but actually don't try and stop them by putting dummy, I think you call it, or, you know, let little ones, and if you start to do that, if you listen to them, you hold them and you listen to them cry, and you kind of say, imagine you're listening to your friend who's telling you about some bad thing that happened, and you just say, oh, yes, tell me about it, and all that must have been hard, and then you see they cry, and then even little babies that can't speak, when they get to the end, they're like, no, and it's pretty intense, like, wow, and they get to the end, they go, oh, it's as if they're saying and another thing,
right?
Sleep usually, and then when they wake up, they feel they're amazing. They're like, that again. Whereas when you've got if you spend all your time trying to stop them crying, you get exhausted and stressed. You know, as long as they've got clean nappy and they're not hungry, and that doesn't mean they've got to be fed constantly. That means they've been fed in the last couple of hours, you know. Then if they're crying, the child, I mean, they might have a pain, but the chances are they're actually trying to tell you something about a feeling. They're trying to process something that happened for them, you know, and it makes it so much more relaxing having a child. But so I had a child that did a lot of crying and shouting and what are called tantrums, because I thought that's him expressing himself. And actually he's really well balanced now, you know. He hasn't got any load of emotional, even though he's only 19, and he's, you know, he was doing some of his education during all the ridiculous COVID lockdown, you know, and a lot of his generation are absolutely mangled, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Mentally mangled. But I think he's very well balanced. But he, you know, and he's not, I'm going to say he's not massively emotional. I don't mean he's cold. I mean, he doesn't have loads. It's like,
Yeah.
but he was when he was younger, you know, he was very,
Yeah.
very expressive, but he just doesn't, he's quite happy. He's interested in life and just potters around doing what he wants to do.
I love that, because it's interesting, because as opposed to people who are maybe raised with in a more controlling atmosphere, or where those types of emotions, or what people call acting out, are judged, right? Those children might end up with more emotional problems because they didn't
I think they do, yeah. Because I think we get the backlog, you know.
Yeah,
if you're upset and you're trying to cry you can think for yourself, like, think the last when you had something upsetting happened, and perhaps you're not very good at crying, or you just were somewhere where you knew, I just can't cry here. And then it stays around for ages. But if you can have a good cry, you know, often you have a cry and 10 minutes later it's gone. It's like the rain, you know, the difference between there's a rain cloud and then the heavens open and it pours and it's quite a relief and fresh afterwards, or there's a rain cloud but the rain doesn't come and it builds up and right. I think that's what we're supposed to do with our emotions. I think we're supposed to express them, you know, and I think if we get to express them much more when we're young, we just don't have such a big cupboard full of them, you know, coach load of them coming up behind.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you know, you did a good job talking about I was going to ask you about empowerment, right? About I'm calling it eco-friendly living, but it's more about what we've been talking about this whole time, not fighting against nature, but going with the flow. And we're talking about having handbooks handy, so that, you know, you as an individual, or as a mother, or, you know, just as a woman yourself, a wife, the one taking care of the home, taking care of the animals,
you know what to do.
Empowering yourself, right, to take care of most issues.
Well, that's what this book, which is all the recipes, the Herbal Handbook of Home and Health. That one's 501 recipes. So you've got everything from how to make soap, all the home cleaning, you know, products, how to clean your home, and how to make your own washing powder. And then you've also got all the how to make your own beauty products. And you've also got a whole load of health things, like I'm just opened it at random, like bed sore and blister preventative. Right, it's something to, you know, so if you're caring for an elder, that's a little section for older people. Then you've got, you know, turmeric, honey, antibiotic. You've got a multi-mineral powder. You can make your own, you know, make your own supplement with certain plants that are very rich. That you can gather, or you can sometimes gather, depending on where you live, you can gather, and it's how to gather them or buying them in, you know. And then you've got, you know, washing powder for babies, or you've got, and then you've got suppositories for worms, you know, parasites. There's even a little section, there's a pets corner even. So you've got animal eardrops, got diarrhea medicine for pets. I got these from vets that I know. A dog's arthritis medicine, sarcoid cream for horses, you know. It's got all kinds of things, and it's also got recipes of foods that, like, from foraged, you know, wild foods that you can eat. So it's a nice book, and actually I'll show you the inside, because I think they did a really nice job with the design. It's like old-fashioned kind of, I don't know if you can see that.
Recipe book. That's beautiful.
Like really nice. It's a beautiful book, actually.
I have stacks of books like that here that I always want. There's some books come and go from my life, but I love having books like that just handy as reference for when I need to deal with something. I can look it up. And you mentioned, if we don't personally know something, we can call up someone, or, you know, seek expert advice, and that's great if you know, have a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, or something. But another alternative is also to have reference books like that.
Reference books, sure. Reference books are better than Googling it, because if you get a good book, you can rely on the information, but the internet's got all sorts of stuff on it, and you may not get, and especially when it comes to herbs, because a lot of the, nowadays it's even worse, like at the top of all the Google things, it's all the sort of, I'm going to say, like the orthodox medical idea about herbs, and they don't really know, they just simply don't know.
Yeah.
So whereas I've noticed, like 10 years ago, you would get some of the more herbal sites would come up more.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, you know, I don't think it's reliable. And then you get these kind of myths about herbs, all that herb's dangerous because blah, blah, but it's actually just not true. It's just not true. So you want you want a nice herbal book from a good herbalist. You want a homeopathic book from a good experienced homeopath, you know, that's what you want. And actually homeopathy, I mean, although I'm a herbalist, so that's why with my son, I had this homeopathy kit with a little book that I'd look up. So I didn't know much about it, but they're tiny little sugar. They're really easy to take. They don't taste nasty. They're really easy to give to little children. And they do really work. It's an amazing medicine. I've had a
what
lot
are they?
Homeopathy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Homeopathic remedies, you know, you can get a whole set. And actually I've saved a baby's life in Africa with the homeopathic kit. Right. I'll tell you that story because that's what made me, I thought, wow, this stuff, there's no doubt it works. I was in Ghana and I was somewhere and I was really in a very rural place. And I saw this little, I think I was at a funeral. They're quite big events, funerals there. And there was this little lad who's probably, I think he was about 9 months. I could see that he was dehydrated to the point of being close to death. And I asked the guy that I was with, you know, introduce me. And she said, yeah, he had a fever and he wouldn't drink, right? And there's a homeopathic remedy that's specific for that. It's called ipecacuanha. And I had it, and I said, I got them to come with me to where I was staying, and I gave this little boy a dose of ipecacuanha and also another one called Carbo Veg, which is a resuscitate. It's for when somebody's really poorly and perhaps about to die. This little boy, he threw up a load of mucus, right? Just within a minute of being given this remedy, he threw up and then he was thirsty and he drank.
Oh, wow.
You know, I'm telling you, it was like, for me, it was like, and I'd had experiences with my son, you know, but nothing like where he was ever at the brink of death, right?
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Because we, you know, anyway, so I knew the homeopathy worked, but when I saw that, I was like, right, there's no doubt in my mind anymore. It's poo-pooed here in England. It's poo-pooed. Probably is in the States. But in Switzerland, where I've got some family, everybody uses it there. And in France, you can get doctors in those countries which do both orthodox medicine and homeopathy. And you can go into pretty much any pharmacist over there and buy the remedies. You know? So don't overlook homeopathy, I'm telling you. And because they're those tiny little sort of pills with a bit of energy of something in, you can put them in the little child's mouth. They dissolve. They don't taste horrible. It's very, very easy to treat children with them. Yeah.
Wow.
You can buy a kit. I had a little kit, like a little box with, I don't know, 40 remedies with a little booklet that told me what to do.
Oh, you know? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Even to this day, even though I've heard many amazing experiences, I've had many amazing experiences with essential oils and herbs and different energy work and such, but it still never ceases to amaze me when something like that happens or I hear about like what the story you just told. I can't go probably into too much detail about one of the stories because of censorship, basically. But one friend that I know personally had, her husband was very ill. He had something wrong with his lungs, and it was quite serious. And she started using frankincense for him, and he was at the point where he was using a CPAP machine. He was breathing through it, and she was just desperate and put a drop of frankincense in the machine. And within a few minutes, he started coughing and hacking really, really bad coughs. And he coughed out this piece of tissue.
Yeah.
And they sent it off to the lab and they confirmed that it was this problematic tissue that his body just knew to get rid of.
Then it could get rid of it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what strikes me with that, what the story you told, and reminded me of that, because it's our bodies know what to do.
That's right. And we just have to help it and encourage the circumstances and give it a leg up, which nature has got so many ways to do. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Thank you so much.
Nice.
And you have a YouTube channel called Being Human.
Yeah, Pip Waller, Being Human. I haven't made any videos for ages. I keep thinking, oh, I made loads, and then I sort of hardly made any, during all the lockdowns. I think I made a couple about COVID, and I keep thinking, I must start doing that again, and I just haven't got around to it. So I will. I've got a whole list of things to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, and there are some videos on there, and
there's a lot of videos on there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one with you drumming, I saw.
Yeah. There's a whole video where I describe how to do the shamanic journey as well. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. So I want to recommend to the audience to check out your Pip's YouTube channel, Being Human, and also your many beautiful books. They're just, I have Deeply Holistic here, and I've been reading it, and it's really very, very rich with information and insights. It's very beautiful from the heart. Obviously, and that's a thick book, and it's not big writing, it's small writing. There's definitely a lot of heart and work that's gone into her books, and they're beautiful. And your latest book is, can you tell us a little bit about your latest book and what you're working on now?
Well, this is the most recent, which is about plant spirit medicine. I think I said already, stories. And if you wanted to know what the kind of plant spirit medicine I'm talking about is about, it sums it up nicely. And well, because I've been teaching with Lucy, we've been teaching a training for healers for the first time. So this is the second year. They'll be finished in November. Now that's taken a lot of energy because we've written the whole course as well. But I am working on a book with my sister. I've got Lucy Wells is my friend and colleague, but I've got a sister called Lucy as well. And she's a real expert in energy. She's a space clearing and feng shui consultant, and a real expert in energetic disturbances and energy problems. So the working title of our book is called Be Aware, but where it also looks like beware. Be aware with a capital W, is how to navigate the sort of complex spiritual complexities of the 21st century. And so it will include things about why it's a problem to use ayahuasca or cannabis or so on. What to be kept, because people are doing a lot of dabbling of different things, and some of it gets people into trouble. So it's like a book about that, really, about what not to do, and then what to do instead, and then what to do if you've done what you shouldn't have done and you've got into trouble, how to put things right. So but we're both super busy, so every now and again we get together and do a bit more of it. We just had a week away together, and we were supposed to be doing a bit of writing, but she ended up having a really bad cold, so we did a little bit but not much. But it'll get done eventually, that book.
Okay, wonderful. And what was that called again?
Beware, Navigating the Complex Spiritual Landscape of the 21st Century. The introduction starts with a quote which says, remember 3 things. 1, your life is in God's hands. 2, the drama or the universal play is in your hands and God's hands. That's like what actually happens day to day in your life. And 3, your happiness is entirely in your own hands. That's from a spiritual teacher and leader called Sister Jayanti from what's called the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. She's quite an amazing teacher, actually. But we thought that's quite a good quote, because it's like, ultimately, obviously, God's in charge, but actually it's a free will planet, right? What we do here makes a difference. And
definitely.
Sometimes, and so people need to know a little bit more about that, basically.
Yes, we're co-creators, right?
Yes, exactly. But it's co-creators. We're not creators. So
right.
Yeah.
the big difference.
Yeah, because
But
sometimes people think, oh yeah, we're co-creators, and then they forget it's actually, yeah, in accordance with divine will, we can
yes,
what we can do. But
yes,
we're not completely in charge. It's really good to remember that.
right. We're
Otherwise,
working in
the
harmony
ego,
with
yeah, we're working in
mhm,
harmony with, yeah.
with natural law and the way things are. I love that. That's beautiful.
But if
And so,
and I've got, if you look, if you're I've got a website which is just pipwaller.co.uk, and I don't like to spend lots of time in front of the screen, so it's not, I don't do oodles of blogs or anything. But if I put a new book out, it would be on there. And I'm on Facebook, Pip Waller. You can find me,
okay.
Instagram, I do a bit of that sometimes, sporadic. Sometimes I do loads, and sometimes I don't.
I love when you do post on Instagram though,
I
because it's
do.
always really exciting and interesting stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's like you had an interesting like handmade water fountain on there. Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
told,
that's right. That was a friend's art show. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, wow. I just love getting little glimpses into your amazing community and life over there.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks, Sherilyn.
It looks like someplace I would love to visit, or maybe even live someday.
Exploring your when you and your roots. Some of your roots are over this way.
That's right. Yeah, I have some European heritage as well, some Irish, English, German. So I definitely feel an affinity with people from that part of the world as well.
Nice.
Your book, the book that you wrote with Lucy Wells, is the same title, is that correct, as your course?
That's Touched by Nature, yeah.
Touched by Nature. Pip also has an offer for the audience of this summit, which you can access using the link below. Can you tell us about that offer, Pip?
Oh yeah, well that's the Touched by Nature, a year with the plants, the seasonal connection course. And you might think, oh, I'm too busy to do anything, but actually some people do loads and some people do little tiny bits of it.
Okay.
But usually it's £150 for the year, and we're offering an 80% discount, which makes it 30 for the year. So
80%.
yeah, so we
That's
hope
amazing.
people
So
want
is
to
that
do.
also for people who would be paying in American dollars? Would that also be?
Well, you would pay actually you would just pay, I think it might be a bit more, maybe, I don't know what the exchange rate, maybe it's $35 instead of 170 or something like that.
Okay, but we'd still get the 80% discount?
Oh yeah, everyone. I'll give you a code.
So,
yeah.
That's very generous. Thank you so much for offering that. That's such an exciting sounding course.
Great.
Can't wait to take it myself.
Well,
Pip, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us and for making the time to be with us today. It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Sherilyn. It's really nice of you.
Oh, I've loved it.